try something different. And they did.
Yeah.
And controversial. Blooper.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Queer Peer Reviews, where we review queer media of good, bad, and ugly. I'm your host, Jamie. 1, 2, 3, 4! Hey! Hey! And today with me is my co-host, Bruce.
Hey! Hey! Here at QPR, we review your favorites and not-so-favorites form of queer media, going from comic books, TV shows, and animated series.
And on today's episode, we are reviewing Scott Pilgrim Takes Off.
A new Netflix series that dropped, and obviously if you're a big Scott Pilgrim fan, like both of us are, this was probably the best time of your life right now. To add to that also is all the cast members from the live action came back to voice their respective characters once more, and it was the best thing ever.
It was amazing. It's so good to hear that all of them agreed to come back, and thank you to the cast.
Very much. We loved the movie, and we love that this animated show brought more, and especially everyone else too. They even brought different voices now finally, and then changing the personalities a bit.
Yeah, more specifically, Scott.
I had a dream about that girl again.
Because in the movie, he's more awkward and reserved, and like just this like. How did he get the flowers? But in this, he's more charismatic, but he's still awkward, but it's like...
Confidently, he started up with the opening Sonic pickup line. And then Ramona, going from live action, no offense to Elizabeth, we both love her.
Love her so much.
her character in live action was a bit more cold, while in the animated, she was a more kindly and more intimate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the relationship between Scott and Ramona is much more intimate in the animated series. And there's a lot of comparisons from like the live action movie versus the animated series. And at first you think it's going to be like a carbon copy of the movie.
Before we get there, if you haven't seen the show yet, we suggest you watch it now because we can't review this without actually dropping smash spoilers. So go watch it and then come back to the video.
Do it.
Okay.
You won't regret it.
All right. Now that they're gone watching the series and you probably watched it already, spoiler alert. We're going to put a nice little spoiler alert here. It is not a complete adaptation of the source material.
But the first episode does start to fool you at first because it's literally shot for shot, line for line, the exact same thing until the fight with Matthew Patel.
Matthew Patel
versus Scott Pilgrim.
And when you think like, oh, okay, he's going to win, then we're going to continue on with the X's. No, it shows that Scott died, and you see the little 3 coins, and it's just Matthew, apparently... Yeah, Matthew Patel won the fight.
He couldn't even believe it himself.
Yes.
He's like, wait, I won?
Well, we were all in a big whiplash of it, too. Because we were, I mean, to be fair, I was ready to watch the whole thing animated. I didn't care if it was going to be the same thing. I wanted to see it animated.
Yeah, I would have totally watched the whole thing through if it was exactly like the film. I would not even have been mad.
But now, because that happened, I was sort of left for a brief moment. I was mixed emotions, like, wait, they're going to change it up? And that explains the title, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. He literally takes off the show.
He's taking a break.
So now we are in this alternate timeline where Scott Pilgrim lost the first fight.
Yes.
And now everybody just sort of has to like move on from that.
Mm-hmm. There's like even a funeral scene, which is hilarious because one of his exes,
Envy Adams,
comes by and starts like a whole concert.
Voiced by Brie Larson.
Yes, like we said, everybody from the original movie is back, and it's just amazing.
Now, you're probably wondering, why are we doing Queer Peer Review on this? Well, obviously, we have Roxy.
We have Roxy, one of Ramona's exes.
The fourth ex.
And also, we have Wallace Wells.
But yes, we know that he's the cool gay roommate.
Yeah.
But also, because of this alternate timeline,
Young Neil winds up writing a movie, which turns out to actually be the live-action version of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. And there's also, like, it's directed by Edgar Wrong instead of Edgar Wright.
Which I love that.
Massive alternate timeline. I love that little thing they snuck in there.
Yeah. And, what is it? And all the exes have, like, some of their lives changed. Matthew Patel, because he was the one to beat Scott, he had this whole, like, ego boost.
He's like, I'm the most powerful ex.
And he managed to defeat Gideon. Mm-hmm. And Gideon lost all of his, like, empire, basically.
Yeah.
And it brings up to also, like, relationships you didn't think about until, like, the show showed it. And you're like, they actually work.
Yeah.
Which led to Gideon and Jules. Which said the
Voiced
meanest
by
girl.
Aubrey Plaza.
Another crush of us.
We agree.
We agree. So they write a screenwriting for the movie. Mm-hmm. Lucas Lee, because he's losing like money apparently.
Yeah.
Turns out his situation was getting worse anyways.
Yeah.
And so his last like Hail Mary was to be the role of Scott Pilgrim, which is funny to me. It's
I'm
like,
Scott Pilgrim.
I'm Scott Pilgrim.
No, where's the real Scott Pilgrim? I'm the real Scott Pilgrim. No, you're not. You're playing Scott Pilgrim.
No, he lost his reputation because he was dating the 31-year-old actress who was playing this.
Knives.
That was so funny. That was so stupid. It's like, you're dating a 17-year-old? She's 31 in real life. The voice.
But yeah, so he gets fired, and then another one of Ramona's exes, Todd Ingram, winds up taking the role of Scott Pilgrim, and they wind up casting Wallace as Wallace.
Oh my god, that scene was funny. It was like, we like you as Wallace. Like, what about the other Wallace? Like, oh, we already escorted him out.
He's already gone.
And then it was like, huh? He's just gone.
So Wallace suggests to the director, I think the movie would be better if we do it like this. So the director, Edgar Wrong, makes Wallace and Scott become a couple in the movie, which leads to their little romantic fling, and it awakens something in him, and he's just
I think it was already awakened. It was the most like like I told you, this show throws you those unexpected things you didn't even like consider for these characters. You didn't consider Todd like probably being interested in men. Mm-hmm. We never thought that.
Yeah. So Todd and Wallace have their fling, and every time they're like, "Oh, let's run lines in your trailer," you just see like cut.
See
to
the trailer get more aggressive and aggressive.
After every single line, they just be like, the trailer just be like, boom, 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 boom. It's so funny.
But Wallace is so
unexpected.
cold-hearted. I was like, oh my god.
But yeah, Todd was so heartbroken, and he learned that your first gay heartbreak is always like horrible.
He broke vegan edge.
Yeah, he was a vegan and suddenly turned not vegan because of his heartbreak.
I was like, at first I was like, oh, cute PR for Roxy and for Ramona, fine. Mm-hmm. But when that episode happened, I was like, we definitely have to review this now.
Yeah, the animated show definitely has more than just the canon gay romance in there. So, but this brings us to one of Ramona's previous exes, Roxy. And that episode was one of my favorites because of all the different animation styles they did, because they literally jumped through different movies at the DVD store.
Oh, and like my favorite scene is like they had like a Kill Bill scene going on.
Yeah.
And Ramona almost lost until Kim. She used the control like pause, rewind.
That was such a cool episode. My eyes were glued to the screen for that part.
And for all those fans out there that wanted to, that were like hinting that Kim might have been like bi, you have your scene.
Yes, at the end of that episode, she's like trying to like ask Ramona, so like
friends
with benefits?
It's like just friends.
Oh, well, what about you? And then she turns to Kim and she's
like,
they kiss, and it's so funny because like it's the most like detailed little like slow kiss. It's, like,
any anime fan knows that's like that we call that the Yuri kiss type
the
scene.
Yuri kiss.
Yeah, so you're learning this now.
Oh my.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's pretty cool that they explored that with Kim, because I feel like she was kind of giving off these like potentially queer vibes, potentially bi vibes.
And she gave the test. Like, oh, let me see if I'm like into this.
Yeah, because like maybe she's not into Roxy, but maybe that just awakened something in her. Like maybe she does like girls, but that's also up for interpretation. It's not like canon or anything like that.
But to those who were like hoping for something like that, well, there you got it.
Oh, and like one thing I wanted to say about like the show itself, even though it's produced by like a big studio, it has this charm. Like, I don't know if like you've noticed, like a lot of indie shows have like this certain charm about them, but this, I feel like it had the same charm as like an independent like animation, you know? I don't know if you know what I mean.
To be fair, this show was animated by a Japanese studio, and it made more sense because Scott Pilgrim is in a way like an anime. Mm-hmm. In some sense, like the way the fighting scenes or sequences are. The studio itself is like, it had some really good like shows or movies they did under them, and they're not overworked like a certain other animation studio in Japan. And so yeah, there is a bit of a charm to it, and that I love it a lot. Mm-hmm. So it really does help a lot. Yeah,
like I don't know, it just didn't feel like all like those other big animated shows that I've ever watched. Like it just felt very personal.
Well, you know how it goes. Like, all the cast members came back. Mm-hmm. It was because like an email got sent out, and everyone replied back. It's like, yes, because there's passion into this. This isn't just like one of those like studios are like, oh, you know, we got to bring this back for make money. Like, no, didn't feel like it was made just to bring it back.
Yeah.
This was brought back because everybody loved it. Everybody loved Scott Pilgrim.
But let's not forget the biggest change from the movie to the show. Instead of it being kind of Scott Pilgrim's story, it's more of Ramona's story, kind of making up with her exes, because you start to realize they're not all horrible people. They're just people who were heartbroken. And terribly so. Mm-hmm. Like Roxy. Roxy was one of the biggest ones, because you could tell she was really heartbroken when you first met her, because she talks about, like, oh, how we were college roommates. We were more than roommates, and more. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, you learn that, like, Ramona just left without saying goodbye, which was kind of the case with a lot of other exes, too. Ramona kind of just was over the relationship and left, and they were just sad.
But yeah, you know, when you mentioned this alternate timeline, after, like, seeing this show, it's a controversial opinion, but I actually kind of prefer this timeline than the original source material, just because everybody kind of has their own happy ending type, or at least like they're enjoying their life a bit more.
I'm a sucker for happy endings.
I know, and it was like, this is better. I like it because everybody's more reconciled. They're not. They don't have any more grudges, except for maybe Gideon, but I think he's just straight evil anyway.
Yeah, don't.
But he has Julie, and actually that's the cute evil couple over there.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with you on that.
They deserve each other. They deserve each other.
I definitely do enjoy this timeline better. I'm sorry, don't hate us, OG
I'm sorry,
fans.
original author, but they did better.
But yeah, do you want to move on to our ratings?
Yeah, let's do it.
Get to those
we'll talk
ratings.
more over there.
Alright, so let's get to our ratings. Let's start with representation.
And for representation, we give it a... I give it an 8.5. What'd you give it? My God.
I give it a 7.8.
We have to admit, it's just about Ramona getting back with a guy.
Yeah, of course. Like, the queerness of this is not the main...
But it surrounds
theme.
it. It surrounds it.
It's definitely present. It's more present than it was in the original movie, which we'll give it that.
Yeah.
But I would say in terms of representation, it's definitely there. Wallace's story is like not... It's a little toxic. You gotta admit, it's a little toxic.
Yeah.
It's not the best form of representation, but I do really appreciate that they added more to his story and have more, like...
And he finally had a guy to settle down with.
Exactly, but the queer heartbreak was definitely real. Your first queer heartbreak is always the worst one.
It'll make a vegan go not be vegan.
Exactly, and I love that the whole fight with Roxy, because I think in the movie it was literally just their fight and that was it.
There was nothing.
Yeah, this they talked about the backstory about how, like, they were in college and stuff like that. Like, your typical
I love the little
story.
flashback sequences.
Those were really nice. But yeah, 7.8. It's not a bad score, but I feel like out of all the things, it is my lowest of the ratings we're doing today.
It could have been lower, but then they added Wallace and Todd, and I was like, all right, it goes a little higher. That was like the most like out of expected thing I was gonna see.
Exactly. But yeah, definitely much more representation than the movie, and we love that.
Next up is Queer Comfort.
And for Queer Comfort, I give it a 9.
9.
Ayy. I feel like even before this show came out, a lot of queer people did really like Scott Pilgrim. I feel like that was one of the things, even though the queer representation was basically minimal in it.
And if we have to throw it in there, it probably also been a lot of people's queer awakenings with each of these characters.
Yes, precisely. There is a lot of queer awakenings on both sides of the original movie, but we are here to talk about the show, and the show just brings it up to a whole new level. Mm-hmm. Like, everyone who loved the movie immediately flocked to the show, and I would say all the queer people along with it. It's definitely just
all
so
the
nice.
people that grew up starting to realizing I love Ramona, or the other people who maybe like grew up loving maybe Wallace or definitely Lucas Lee.
Lucas Lee.
That's probably me. It is so comfortable. I'm actually even going to rewatch it in Japanese dub because I even heard the Japanese dub voice actors are stacked as well. So that's how much I actually enjoyed this. And I barely rewatch shows I finish.
And I think it's also like that whole nostalgic like vibe you get from it. It's like you've been here before, and like not just because it was a movie,
something
but
you can watch while like you're doing like something else. It's like it's great.
Yeah,
it's great.
Great show, great comfort show. Next up, originality.
And for originality, we give it I give it 9.1.
I give it a 9.5.
I mean, like from the trailer, you thought it was going to be a Faithful Invitation with some maybe new extra scenes here and there. But like after that first episode, I was thrown off. I thought we were not even going to have originality down here. You know, even if we did, it would have been low. Cause like it's the same thing as the other one. No, they gave us the biggest like, what if Scott Pilgrim lost that first fight? And it was like the best thing.
Yeah, like you just said, when I was watching the show, I was like, maybe we're not going to do originality because it's exactly like it was in the movie. But then you get that whole twist, and I think it's extremely difficult to take source material and change it completely without messing it up. And they did the complete opposite. They did not mess it up. This is its own original story, on its own, alternate timeline, and they did such a great job doing so.
And it didn't like take away any of the characters like how they are. It expanded more onto them, and that's what I love about this timeline, and that's what makes me find this more favorable than him. It's like basically I like the pacifist run over here than
Scott having to fight everybody.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's like because you know
it's wholesome. It's a lot more wholesome.
It's a lot more wholesome. Yeah. What about you?
Wholesome.
Wholesome.
AF.
I mean, like, I don't know. I just love the happy ending.
It's great, and I feel like it doesn't take away the credibility of the original either.
No one's a really villain there, maybe except for Gideon. But everyone else there is like no one's actually a villain. They just wanted happiness.
Heartbreak is the villain.
And Gideon. He was gonna blow up a theater. He was about to commit domestic terrorism.
Oh my god.
And next up is writing.
So for writing, we give it...
I give it 9.8.
I also give it 9.8! Wow. I mean, I think that just goes to show that this is some amazing writing we've got right here. It goes hand in hand with originality because they were able to take this original concept, write a whole new thing, and not mess it up.
This is why you pay your writers well.
This is why you pay your writers.
The fact that they had the challenge to rewrite the timeline of Scott Pilgrim, and it worked magnificently. I mean, yeah, that's high marks right there. That's high.
Yeah, they could have just taken the easy way out and just decided we're just going to remake the entire movie, the original like storyline, and just animate it. But
butchers characters, like character assassination? No.
And like it just goes to show, I feel like we always talk about this one review that you and Justin did. You could take characters from an original storyline and completely alter it and still do a good job. And last but not least, our overall feelings towards Scott Pilgrim Takes Off.
Yay! Overall, we give it a 9.5.
I give it a 9.8. I didn't even have to change my score, but great show. I definitely am going to watch it again. I'm going to recommend it to everybody I know who hasn't watched it yet.
Even if they don't want to watch it, we'll still make them watch it.
I'm going to force you to watch it. Great show.
Force your friends to watch it. This is a really great show. And I don't know if they tease the season 2, if it's possible. I mean, I'm pretty sure the cast members would be down to voice.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like one of their favorite. I would hope so. I'd be down for season 2. Because I want to see what Gideon and Jules would be up to. Because they teased that. You saw
They
it.
did.
That was a tease. That wasn't something that like, oh, it's a scene. That felt like a tease. Because he said...
Everything is done with a purpose. And
so I'm hoping that's what it means. Because I want to see more.
Yeah. Favorite episode 3 with the whole
my favorite episode
Roxy.
was I love episode 5, not just because of Wallace and Todd, but the way the film was filmed like it was like a behind the scenes documentary. I love that.
All right, so let's get to our QPR total. Will our narrator please give us that gay shit?
For your QPR total, Scott Pilgrim receives a 91.7.
Nice, a 91.7. That's
a gay.
That's a gay A. We love that.
We give it the seal of must watch for all viewers. This has to be watched.
Even if you haven't watched the movie, this is just a good standalone. Like, you won't get some of the references.
Maybe watch the movie anyways, and then go to the series if you want it.
Because there's gay stuff in the original too.
But better in the show.
Yeah.
Better in the show. And the message that we have to learn from this is also choose yourself, and also it's okay to reconcile with your exes, right, Jamie? Never mind. Not all exes need to be reconciled. If they were toxic, leave them alone.
But anywho, check out the links in our description for the Trevor Project as well as our social media pages. Just remember to support more career media, and we will see you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye. Get out.